This episode is once again brought to you by Tricked Out Spook. Standing at Foals R Us, give them a call to breed for your next horse. Hugo is one of my favorite studs in the business right now. I've loved him since I got to watch him show with Tanya years and years ago. One of my favorite runs of his ever is Raining by the Bay, where he marks 227.5. She wins the level 3 and is reserving the level 4. It's a great run on him, and it's also the next year when Andrea showed him twice. I saw him school him at Burbank, and I saw him show him at the shootout deal that was at the fraternity at the time. Both runs were excellent. He tied to win it on him, and that horse had all the heart, all the talent, all the look, everything you ever wanted in one. And all three of his babies that I rode personally had the same kind of look, try, and effort and talent level too. My first year with the Tricks at Midnight horse, I went to Denver not knowing what I had at the fraternity, for that fraternity there, and he was my first ever horse I qualified for level 4 finals on. And I was so excited, and I had guys that I look up to and admire coming up to me and asking me what he was because he was stopping so good. So if you want a horse with big stop and big heart, I'd give Foals R Us a call and set up a breeding to Tricked Out Spook. Now we're back to wrap up and review the American Western Performance Horseman. So, as you guys know, the team setting is what it is. It was total score, and the one thing they changed from what was written on the website is they didn't use just the fence score. They used the total score on the cow horse, which I'm not sure if I loved. That makes the cow horse weigh a little bit more. Now, as far as pure entertainment and watching, I have some stuff with the production that I wasn't a huge fan of, and the way they shot stuff and the fact that the music choices in the reining especially. But as far as the watching of the event and the horses that participated and the riders that participated, it was an excellent showcase of all three of these Western performance events. The cutting showed off some greatness. The reiners, you got to see two of the three best horses in the world today, in my opinion. And the fence work is the fence work. It's always going to be exciting. So we got to see a lot of things like that. So I'm going to start with the cutting, just like we did in the preview, and I'm going to go up the list, and the only two spots I got right in the prediction were 4 and 5. Lindy's horse was good, technical, solid. It just lacked the style of the horses above it. It was a good, solid run that you'd like to have a lot of places. It's not good enough for this event. And I think she knew it when it was happening. There was just not a whole lot of draw. There was a lot of push. There was a lot of, the cattle pushed on her, not the horse pushing. But that mare just went back and forth, did her job, held a cow. That part was really good. But to get to those bigger scores that you need a little more style, a little more draw, all that kind of stuff. Now, Austin Shepard showed his 4-year-old. One of the reasons I predicted him as low as I did was because he was showing the 4-year-old. That being said, he marked a 220, and I think he had a miss. Don't know. The camera's cutting and stuff made it hard to tell, and I don't know if the camera was centered. So that being said, Austin marked the 20 with a miss. Probably could have been higher. Good run. Hard in this competition level to get there. As we move up the list, now we get to this thing I shuffled a little bit. So I had Wes and Lloyd back to back, but I had them first and second, not second and third. Wes comes out on Third Edge, and Third Edge has the run you would expect her to have on the second cow. Her second cow was excellent. Wes had trouble getting cut on the first two cows, and not that he had trouble, but just they didn't cut as smooth. They didn't hook up to his horse, and things just didn't connect. Whereas on that second cow, it looked amazing. And he jumps up to mark 21. He's, at the time, was sitting second when he finished because he was fourth to go. And then Lloyd comes in last. He knows what he's got to beat. He knows he's got to be huge. He comes in and he lays down a big old run. Marks a 24. I had him in the neighborhood. Mind you, once again, it's hard because the cameras were cutting, and part of it hard. When you're used to watching from straight on, it's hard to judge as they're moving the camera around. That being said, Lloyd's run was really, really good. I do think it was better than Wes's because it was cleaner, smoother, and there was some better cuts in there. But his cattle, he picked cattle better and was more even, I think, from that fact. And then we get to the winner, Allspice and Adon Banuelos. Adon had a smoking run. I've talked to some people who thought Lloyd might have beat him. I've talked to more people who thought Adon won. The judges obviously thought Adon won. I thought Adon won. I thought it was closer than their scores difference were, but it was a good mix of that horse, and it's just so stylish. He, like, if you had to rate on single cows how they cut, I think Wes's second cow might have been the best cow, but I think Adon cut the second, third, and fourth best cows and had the best run. That's the way I look at it, and I think Adon was excellent. So we'll move on now to the reining, and my forte of, if I have a forte, this is the closest thing I have to it and the one I study the most. So I only got the top two right in the reining, but the other three did a lot of what I said they would do, with one exception, and that's Sean, who was in last place. Sean Flaherty ends up fifth with a 220.5. A really good run anywhere you go, in the money in most places, and it's something that, level 1, 2 guys want to have a run like that all the time. They want to go mark 20 and be right in there in the mix. For Sean, because he set his personal standard is so high, it's a little ho-hum. Goes in plus halves everything. Has a little half point penalty in the turn, I believe, is, if I remember right. I have to rewatch the runs. But it's a good run that's not the elite caliber that we need for this event. Fourth place is Matt Mills. Now, Matt has some dynamic stuff. He goes in plus ones several maneuvers, especially, I believe, his left turn and his right set of circles were really, really good. Plus one for sure, borderline plus 1.5, I don't know, in that range. Does a great job, has some really good stuff. 2 maneuvers hurt him, and this is probably what kept him from being up there with Fernando for second and third, or for third and fourth, I mean. His first stop and backup, and his last stop. Both times that horse gave the ground. I don't know the reason. I have suspicions, but I don't think it was anything to do with the ground because nobody else had trouble with it. But there's just something there, whether that thing got too deep and had to rebalance, or something grabbed and it spun itself, whatever it is. Those two stops turn from big pluses to a 0 at best, and you're looking at a situation where Matt could have been higher if he got that done. Like, I think that was really cool, really good horse. Showed off. Matt showed it well, just in a pen of elite horses. Third place was Fernando, who I had one spot lower. I had him in fourth. Fernando had the run that he needed to have on the horse he had. He maximized Pale Dunstar for what it was. There's some plus ones in there. It was a really good run. Lots of big stuff. Just not enough horse to go catch those 2 guys that are out in front of him that have 2 of the best horses in the country. Not knocking Fernando's horse, not knocking Fernando. That was a really good deal. At most major events, Fernando is either winning it or in the top 5 with a 24. Most anywhere you go, except for the Million. And here, apparently, well, here you're in the top 5, but you're third. You're in the middle of the bunch. Or in the NRBC, which is known for big scores because of the big arena, and we'll see how that changes when it goes to Tulsa this year. Now, that being said, those 3 were all really good runs, perfect displays of professionalism, showmanship, and all of the things that we wanted to showcase from the NRHA's perspective, from reining perspective, on the world stage. But now we come back and we have 2 of the elites of the elites. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see these 2 horses first and second again at the Run for the Million. I wouldn't be. I'm sure this is the horse Casey's showing at Run for the Million, unless something happens. I'm 80% sure this is the one Andre is showing at the Run for the Million, unless something happens. And his backup's almost as good. Might even be better at one maneuver, but we'll get to that when the time comes in August. So, second place, where I predicted him, is Andre Fapani. Trash Talking Spook did exactly what Trash Talking Spook does. He came in, he stopped really good, he turned amazing both ways. The left-hand turn at the American is to my mind the example of that style of horse turning a plus 1.5. That he turned the best of anybody there. It's the only maneuver he did outright better than Casey's, and Casey's horse turned really good. Andrea's horse turned to the left better than anybody's. Circled good, probably not as good as he did at the Million the other year, and that might be because the pen's a little shorter, the pen's a little narrower. I don't know the whole dimensions on it, but it looked like those circles came up fast. And then he got stopped all 3 times around the end really well. But this is the point I want to make about horses that aren't rode around cattle, and this changes things. And I don't know if this one is or not. In the past few years, we've seen as these guys have ramped up the way they come around the edge and get speed going earlier so they can get stopped bigger. We've seen some of these horses start getting a little ahead of them and going and going and going and going and getting stronger on the end is what we see. A perfect example of that is can't think of the horse's name now, but it was one that happened at Scottsdale last year at the qualifier, and it came around the corner. I mean, it stopped at +1.5, but it came around the corner a little funky and hard to go to that level. A lot of these horses that have been shown a little more started getting a little stronger on the corner. But the addition of, that's the end that they were running off of is the end that they cut out of. And these horses that aren't used to the smell of cattle all the time might have gotten a little strong, and the guys might have just gathered them a little more, because when they turned that corner, they were thinking both thoughts of, I got to get away from that smell because I don't know what it is, and they've got to go with everything to get down to that stop like they're supposed to. Might have also been a short pen, so they were prepping for that too. I don't know what the answer is, but I noticed that here on Andrea's horse compared to how it normally goes around the corner. It came around a little strong and wanted to get a little going. But it's still excellent. 230.5. It should have been everything it was. And when he finished, I'm like, oh man, that's awesome. That's great. He's put a lot of pressure on Casey. And Casey did the Casey thing of coming out and doing exactly what he needed to do to go beat him. Casey outstopped Andrea. He darn sure outstopped him all 4 times. Probably outcircled him to the right. And even though he did get outturned to the left, I think, it's by that much. Casey outstopped everybody in this group by that much. Andrea outturned him by that much. You see the difference there. This horse has lived up to his name and has only gotten better as he's gotten older. Whether that's mental maturity or a physical strength thing, I do not know. It's excellent to see Andrea and Casey performing at this level. These two guys are taking our sport to places it's never been. Like, it used to be cool when you'd see a 230. Like, it was rare. It was once a year you might see one. We're to the point where if Casey or Andrea are there, you have to be a 30 to even be in the top 3. Because one of their horses is going to do it. Both of them here. Both of them at the million. It's not the unattainable thing it was 5-6 years ago. Whether that's a compliment to the judging that they're using the scale more, whether that's a compliment to the horses that they're getting better, whether that's a compliment to the training techniques that they're getting better. Because even with 3-year-olds at the fraternity last year, we had a 230. With Derby horses, we're having 230s on a semi-regular basis. With these new big age events that don't have an age limit, that are going for crazy money, we've been expecting to see a 230 at the Run for the Million for years. Last year we got 6 of them, and every one of them was earned. We got 2 out of 5 at the American. This is where things are going to get crazy with this sport in a good way, because it has gotten so good and so strong that's where we're going with the reining. I love to see it. It scares me as a trainer because I've got to keep up, or pretend to, because I'm not these guys. But I've got to get better too, because otherwise I'm going to get left way behind. And these guys are stressing because they've got to keep up with each other, because you've got Casey, Andrea, Sean, Jason Van Landingham, Cade McCutcheon, Matt Mills, Sean Flaherty, Fernando Salgado's done it, Francesco Martinati. You've got 15 guys now, and girls, Jordan McBurney. You've got 15 people, at least, maybe more, they can go mark 230 if they're mounted right. Because they have that mindset, they have that ability, they have those things. We have the ground, all this stuff. It's incredible to see. And that concludes my reining TED Talk, because I've just exhausted myself talking about how great these guys are. And that's the thing is, Sean was last place in this deal. He just won the fraternity 3 months ago on a run that, whatever you thought about it, was still a really good run. We are now to the point where there is no, I might get by with something. You have to be excellent at most everything. So now we'll get to the cow horse. So they changed some stuff on this for me personally. I read the rules right before I recorded the preview video, It said that the cow score would be the only part that counted. They used both scores. That weighs the cow horse too heavily, in my opinion. They should have just used the fence work. Use both scores for the NRCHA money because it counts. I get it, because you have to have a dry work for that. For this, just have the 3 scores. Make them even. I understand. Make them even. Now the cow weighed too much. That being said, it doesn't change the order of how it worked out, but they got lucky on that. Because if this had changed the scoring and the placing, we would have had a big issue. That would have been hushed under the rug and done everything. One of the few mistakes I think that Teton made in this whole deal. But let's go over it from top to bottom. So Lee Deacon, did not do what I thought he would do. I thought he would be even bigger down the fence than he was. He was an 18.5 down the fence, but he was a 188 in the dry work. I obviously didn't get to see the dry work because it was not videoed and it was empty. Ends up in last because of bad luck in the dry work. Made a good fence run, but for what came later, as a little ho-hum. But Lee hung with these guys, especially down the fence. Corey was 4th, who was my predicted 2nd place guy, and actually the guy I put on the Pro Rodeo Fantasy thing, but enough about that. Corey marks an 18 in the dry work, marks a 208 down the fence, had some heck down the fence. The horse didn't hook. When he tried to switch, the horse kind of went, I'm supposed to go this way, and Corey's like, no, we're supposed to go that way. Just stuff didn't come together. It happens when you're showing cow horses. 3rd place, we're going to go to Chris Dawson. I had his wife Sarah here. Y'all know how that ended up. Chris ends up in 3rd with a smoking 24.5 in the dry work. Comes back, has a little bit of a cow that kind of quit on him halfway through and leaned on him, just didn't give him anything to show. Marks an 18.5 down the fence, 443 total. 3rd place, well cleared Corey in 4th, and a good 6.5 points behind Justin Wright. So we'll get to Justin Wright. Old Scooter Cat. I really like this horse. I always have, and I said in the preview, he needs the right kind of cow to make the fence run. To make the fence run as dynamic as I thought he would need to. Well, guess what? He got the cow. He went and marked a 225 down the fence. I had him tick lower, but still placed where he is. And to be fair, I had Sarah a tick lower than they had her too. But when I say a tick, I mean we're talking 225 to 224, 223.5, like that much. Same thing, 226.5 to 225. That's all of the difference I saw. That being said, Justin, what a run down the fence. That was so cool, so right for those cattle. And I know a lot of people saw it, and I love this video. Somebody from shooting in the bucking chutes, shot a video of Scooter Cat making the turn, and they literally are just in the perfect spot. They made that turn right in front of him. And you see that horse just go, ho-hum, it's right there, it's easy, I can go do it all day long. And that's what you love about horses like this. Did a great job. And then Miss Sarah Dawson comes out there and betters her 226 from the dry work by marking a 26.5 down the fence. She was the winner. Justin was great. It's not even an argument Sarah beat him. The question was the scoring. I don't care enough to make a point about the scoring being disagreed by people in the comments or on Facebook or even myself, who I do have a different opinion in what the number should have been. I don't disagree with the placement at all. Sarah won, Justin 2nd, Chris is 3rd, Corey's 4th overall, but he was last, and Lee was right there with Chris in the fence work. It was so pretty. It was so dynamic. It's what you like to see, and to be cliched, it's what you like to see when Chris and Sarah are hugging at the end, because Chris is as supportive of Sarah as anybody is, just like she's just as supportive of him. And of course, there's 2 other guys who were cheering big time when that happened. And that's Adon and Fernando, because with Sarah doing that, it clutches them an extra $75K for the team deal. Team Blue, my prediction for 4th place, I'm owning that. They came out and they won it. Adon, like my buddy Patrick said, came loaded for bear, did his job. Fernando kept the score close enough to be respectable. And when you get down to it and Sarah goes and wins the fence work, I mean, you win 2 out of 3 events, you're probably going to win the thing. But especially when Fernando stayed right in the pack in the reining, everybody did their job. They won an extra $75K. Sarah and Adon both won the $100K on top of it, so they're they're feeling like pigs in mud or pigs in slop right now. And it's excellent. It's a great event. It's a great idea. There's some production work that, being the first time, did what it did. I'm not going to criticize. I'm just constructively watching stuff. There's some production stuff that could have been a little better. There is some commentary could have been useful. If you hire a play-by-play guy or girl, hire somebody to do the play-by-play, and hire an expert in each event to talk you through it so people know what they're watching a little more, not just on the breaks. Because on the break, it's also people that aren't in our world, they're adjacent world. Does that make sense? I hope so. And just little stuff like that, I think, would be better for this next year. If you're paying to fly out 5 judges, and you're paying to fly, and you're already having these experts on your panel, have some commentators, have people talking to it. My only other big gripe, and people can say what they want about this, your production for the reining and the fence work, or for the cutting and the fence work, was excellent. Good music, lively, everything was going. Why did we play slow, put you to sleep, figure skating music for that? Is it because Andrea mentioned figure skating one time in his interview? Because that is, no, get rid of that. Play upbeat music. Play something that's driving. Let the riders tell you what they want to play. Something like that. It would be better. Now, the money, the event, the arena space, everything was pretty cool. There's some little details that maybe they set it up a certain way because they had to. There's some little details that would make that arena so cool if they built it in a little more and had people closer. Now I'm going to say, the number I heard was a rough estimate from people who were there, and they said 5, 6, maybe 7,000 people there. That's a great turnout for a horse event like this, especially something this short. In a 40,000 seat arena, it looks tiny. That is not the fault of the promoters. That's not the fault of these riders. That's nobody's fault. It's just the way it looks on camera when you have a cavernous arena, a baseball stadium that holds 40,000 or 42,000, whatever that Globe Life holds. 6,000 people sitting spread out is kind of small. And it's funny because the best place to sit for the reining and for the fence work also, for that setup, would have been the third baseline. So there was, and all the camera shots are going to the first baseline. So that's what makes it tough from perspective on a camera angle. Now, I've been picking on these guys now. The arena looked great. The time usage was great. You got it by adjusting their schedule and putting, I think it was Sheryl Crow, they put in the middle between the cutting and the reining. If she's playing while they're tearing down everything, that makes it no downtime for the live crowd. On the stream, it stinks because we have, an hour that we're down, and I was lucky because I had somebody at the event calling me and saying, hey, we got 5 minutes, let's go. So I was able to log back on and watch. Great event. A couple little tweaks will make it even better. And I think next year, what you do, and this is just me, and if you're going to be in that same stadium again, instead of running that deal from home plate out to center field, turn it. Have it run parallel to either the third or first base line, and then put your grandstands on the field for your VIP seating or your lifted stands with tables. It will look better on camera. That's just an opinion. They may not listen to me. I'm not a production guy, but we're nearing in on 25 minutes on this video. I've done it in one take, no edits. So now I'm going to give you my final thoughts of it was a wonderful event. I'm going to say thank you very much, and I'm going to go say I have a review of Florida coming. I know Florida already happened, but I have a review of it that I recorded. I forgot to edit it and put it up. So that short review of the top runs at Florida is coming sometime later this week before I leave for Arizona. Everybody who's wanting something from Arizona, I already said this in the channel update. There will be no preview. There will be no review from Arizona. I'm working for the horse show. I'm a judge at the event. Not for the million itself, but I will be there in a judging capacity, so I am not doing anything as far as covering it because I don't want any sort of conflict of interest at all. So the only other thing I have to do is I'm putting this up on Facebook, obviously, Instagram, and YouTube. Comment, like, subscribe, share, everything. I really do want discussions. This is called up for a discussion for a reason. I want people to engage and I want to talk about things. I'm not saying I'm 100% right on any of this. I want conversation. I want to know every opinion you have, good, bad, and indifferent. I want to know what you would do to fix the bad things. Not on the horses, like what I said about the production. What would you do to change it? I gave you my idea. I'm not saying it's right. It's what I would do to see if it sets up better. So now, for all of that, I want to say thank you very much. I really want to say thank you to this episode's sponsor, Tricked Out Spook. And after that, I guess I'm just going to log off. And we are going to see you guys. Well, you'll see me at the end of the week. And then I'll have another video coming when I get home from Scottsdale for a preview for the NRBC. So enjoy yourselves, and let's get to watching the Run for the Million qualifier, because that's going to be a lot of fun. So I'll see you guys all next time.